Okay, so today we're doing IMPERA, ranking and reviewing each of these tracks. I've done the first 4 albums and I've done 7 inches of Satanic Panic, so go check those out if you'd like. And from re-listening to all of these, Prequel is definitely my favourite. And it seems very strange to me that after coming off my favourite album from these guys, that I get one that so far is my least favourite. I think it's important to come out the gate with that because IMPERA is an album that is very loved, especially by Ghost fans. Ghost fans love this record. I can understand why. And I'm not dismissive of it. I don't try to be. I'm hoping that I can explain why some of the songs on here really don't work for me, because there are also some songs on here that I really like a lot. There aren't many of those, but they do exist. And so I'm going to be talking through the album in chronological order this time, and you may have to bear with me on some of the songs because I know for a fact there are going to be some songs here that I like that others don't, and that I don't like and that others do. So just hear me out on this one. I promise I'm not a hater that much. The first track is Imperium. This is great. It's a really nice melody, and it's a slow but still energetic way to open the album. That energy is given by the snare drum. The thing I like the most about this track is how this melody returns at the end of the final track to also close the album. So it opens it and it closes it. And we will get to that part of this album a little bit later. But Imperium leads us into Kaisarion, and I've literally written in my notes from when I last listened to this, who cares? I cannot care about this song. I think I find that opening high vocal extremely alienating. It definitely doesn't draw me in. This track is setting a tone for this album that I just don't vibe with. The heaviness is present. Like, the guitars are heavy and there is an impact to the drums, and the bass tone is great. You can hear the bass clearly throughout all of these songs. But even though it's heavy, it's lost all of its moodiness. There is no darkness in many of these songs. Kaisarion is major. It's upbeat. It's bright. The only reasons those things worked for me in Ghost before was because they were juxtaposed by something dark. It was the contrast between the lighter elements and the darker elements, or the double meaning, that really lended nuance and impact to Ghost. I literally sense no darkness or double meaning at all in this song. Maybe you could argue that there is a contrast between this person they're singing about being stoned to death and the sort of major upbeatness of the song, but it doesn't work. Technically, I should like this song. The guitar playing is a lot more technical than anything we've heard before from the previous albums, and I think the mix on this song is insanely good, as it is for all of the songs on this album. You can hear every detail. And I should like the triplet switch up in the middle. You know, that playing with form and convention is something I normally really like, but I think I like it more in theory than in practice here. Lyrically, I'm quite lost at certain points in this song. The song is somehow about a mathematician, I think, who was stoned to death, but also we have lyrics in here like, it's the sound of another deadline whistling past your ears. I don't get this song. I don't know what it's trying to convey to me. It should work, but I don't feel it. So that's a real shame. But next we have Spillways, and this is a lot better. This has a good groove. Immediately it sounds like ABBA, which is very funny, but it is still good because obviously the rest of this song does not sound anything like ABBA, and that's never been a comparison that I've disliked with Ghost. The chorus is really catchy in this song. Unlike Kaisarion, this song gives me a really great sense of fun. I don't know why this one works and Kaisarion doesn't, but this is just so much fun. This just works so much better for me. Maybe it's because it's dialed back a bit. I do sometimes feel that Kaisarion is trying to do too much, so maybe that's it. The guitar solos in this song, because there's quite a few, even as background ambient sometimes, are incredible. Technically, we're really stepping up in terms of the guitar playing. And interestingly, where Kaisarion feels like it goes on for too long and can be wrapped up more quickly, Spillways is over too quickly. So a really good song. Really enjoy Spillways. And number 3, the next song, is Call Me Little Sunshine. And I never know how to feel about this song. I don't mind it. I think the riff is well constructed, but I don't find it very catchy, and I don't find it very interesting actually either. This feels like a really diluted version of what Ghost used to sound like, and I think that's the problem. All of the stylistic elements you would expect are here. it's got an organ, it's got a riff, but I wouldn't even say the riff is that dark. Nowhere near as dissonant as something like Cerise. And so it does actually very much feel like it's in Cerise's shadow with this acoustic riff. There are many things about the song I'm not fully convinced by. Like, I'm not convinced the key change was fully necessary at the end. I'm not against it particularly, but it does feel like we're just trying to reach a height, a climax to this song that just isn't really there. Lyrically though, this is quite good. I like the lyrics a lot more than I like this song, because it's a shame the music doesn't really meet the level of the lyrics. But if I were to be cruel to this song, I would say it's a poor man's Cerise. It's trying to do things that Cerise did, but ultimately not able to distinguish itself enough and not able to reach those heights. And next is Hunter's Moon. This is also a really conflicting song. I like the verses a lot. The chorus does not do it for me at all though. The synth and the guitar leads feel very confused, and I don't know what it's trying to convey. The post-chorus break after the second chorus is quite frankly all over the place. There are some cool bits after the second chorus that sound a bit like the Zenith bridge with the dark vocals, and the solo starts off strong after that, but the solo then immediately stops for some reason, and we get instead these very out of place accents and vocal stings which bring us back into the chorus, but this time the chorus has a random high pass filter thing on it, which means it just sounds weird, to be honest, rather than interesting or good. So the verses are great, but the choruses feel confused, and then after the second chorus, it's just anything goes. And you get the sense that they also didn't really know how to end this song either, because the way that it does end is by emphasizing the 3-3-2 subdivision, and I just don't think that works here. The thing I'm coming back to with this song is, what are you trying to make me feel? What is this song actually trying to bring out in me? Because all it's managing to achieve at the moment is confusion. That's all I've got from Hunter's Moon. I don't feel like it's spooky. I don't feel like it's really heavy. I'm just puzzled. And that's never what you want, especially from a Ghost song, where Ghost is supposed to have a really clear mission statement about what their music is actually about. Hunter's Moon is the last thing I'd expect. Well, that's not quite true. Future is a Foreign Land is the last thing I'd expect, but, you know, this is not what I'm listening to Ghost for. We can do a lot better than this. Next up, we have Watcher in the Sky. This is a perfect example of a song that would be really great if it was 3.5 to 4 minutes long instead of 6. The opening riff, which is also the chorus riff, is really great. It builds up, and it builds up quite well as well, but then collapses into the verse riff, which is my favourite part of the song, because the chugging in the verse is so heavy. Probably the heaviest part of this whole album. I love it combined with the eerie synth in the background. All of those moments, so the chorus riff and the verse riff, I really like about the song. And I like the solo as well, but I do have to admit the chorus is a bit nauseating in how repetitive it is, and the fade out at the end of this song does not help that at all. I do have some ideas of how you could improve this song. I think you should keep the intro, maybe not the 15 seconds of mechanical ambience right at the start, cut that, but you do the intro, builds up, collapses down into the verse riff, no pre-chorus, don't think that's necessary, we can just go straight from the verse riff into the chorus, and after the first chorus we go straight back into the verse riff with some vocals, so we're going to skip the riffy chuggy bit, but we'll come back to that later. So intro, verse, chorus, verse, second chorus, we're going to get rid of the bridge. After the second chorus we can go straight into the tapping solo, because I really like that harmonized solo. That continues as normal into the chorus, and then we do the chorus again, but then after we've done it twice we stop and then go from that chorus into the riffy chugging bit we skipped before, after what was going to be the first chorus. And that riffy chugging can be a breakdown, it can basically be a perfect way to end that song. I think with that structure, you've made the song a lot shorter, and you've also got a much more addicting structure. I think the bridge feels quite out of place in this song, and I'm not convinced the pre-choruses are totally necessary. I do like this song to some extent, but it does have a problem because it's just all over itself, and it needed some refining. Because with the length that it's currently at, I really don't like listening to it. I would stop listening to it after the first 2 minutes. because I've heard everything I want to hear from this song by then. I don't need to listen to the chorus over and over again until it fades out. That was one of the things I really liked about the movie, actually, is it talked over the ending of Watcher in the Sky, made the song a lot more bearable. After this, we have a little interlude, which is Dominion. I don't think much of it. It's okay. As an intro to 20s, I don't think it's necessary, because melodically it's quite separate, but it's only 1:23, so I don't mind it at all. So after that is obviously 20s, and this is so much better. 20s is brilliant. I have to be honest, when I first heard this many years ago, I was not fully convinced. I don't think anyone was, but over time this has really grown on me. I think this is the heaviest song overall on the album. I love the Latin drum groove that's going on. I think the riffing is brilliant. This is such a fun song to play. It's all over the place. And I said before when we were talking about Future is a Foreign Land that I don't listen to Ghost for politics. I don't listen to them to talk about fascism, communism, or the Cold War, or anything like that. And I still stand by that. I don't really want to be listening to Ghost for anything other than satanic imagery and commentary on religion and spirituality. But given that this is where we are, and IMPERA is ostensibly an album about American imperialism, I suppose, I think that 20s actually does really work. But it only works on this album. You could not have this on any other Ghost album. It simply wouldn't fit. One of the things that's really great about 20s are the lyrics. And the lyrics can, be a bit of a turn off for some people. We'll be grinding in a pile of moolah. And I appreciate it if you think that that's just too silly. But I think what it's doing is 20s uses a lot of what was said in the early 20th century about the future. If you take the 1910s, really this is meant to be placing you more or less into the position of someone from the 1930s, especially if you think about 1930s Germany. What were the kind of things that people were saying about their lives at that time? Well, they weren't great, but due to the electing of certain political leadership, there was this feeling that life was going to get better and things were going to improve. And lyrically, this song is all about, we're going to have more money. We're going to get more money. Economically, this country, our individual or family prospects are going to improve, going from the 1930s into the 1940s. And we obviously know, bit of dramatic irony, that didn't happen. There was the Second World War. Things actually got quite a bit worse, economically and socially. And so this song uses that knowledge there to interpret it into the present day, because this album came out in 2022, the early 2020s. What were the kind of things people were saying going from one decade into another? I think a lot of people were hopeful the 2020s were going to be a better decade, especially after economic hardship in many Western countries following the 2008 financial crisis and its continuing effects. But what happened right at the start of that decade, what happened right at the start of the 1940s, there was a catastrophe. From the 2010s into the 2020s, there was a pandemic. From the 1910s into the 1920s, there was a flu pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic. From the 1930s into the 1940s, there was the Second World War. And so this song is actually a cautionary tale against fascism, because the song is assuming that you know that the predictions for the future aren't going to pan out as optimistically as they're being portrayed in this song. And if someone is pitching that idea, then there's often a catch, because the problems aren't that simple to solve. So I think the song is very effective in communicating a subtle message against populism. I think the message is subtle. Ironically, I don't think the song is very subtle at all. The song is probably as in your face as it could possibly get for Ghost. But as you can probably tell, I get quite a lot out of this song. And it's an example where Ghost going in the IMPERA direction actually really worked. Instrumentally, the song is really interesting as well. I think the soloing is really great. We have the classic guitar solo formula for Ghost, where the guitar solo begins and it's really dark and moody, but then it becomes brighter as the solo continues. One thing that's really characteristic of this song are the half-step modulations, the key changes. So these are most notable in the chorus. When we have the chorus and we say 20s, there are first of all some very dissonant backing vocals. I like the dissonant backing vocals, but I totally understand if you really don't like those. And after we've said 20s a couple times, we then half-step modulate up. I don't know if they're all half-step modulations actually, they may just be like key changes. But that's what I mean when I say a half step modulation. That means key changing up by a semitone. But we change key quite a few times actually in some of the later choruses, and I think the key changing upwards would also signify the optimism baked into the lyrics of the song, the predictions for the future. So I like it when the lyrics and the meaning of the song are reflected by the direction of the music. We also hear those key changes during the solo as well, and that's what also lends it that brighter tone, that brighter feeling to the developed sections of the solo. So yeah, 20s is great. Honestly, don't really get the hate for 20s. After 20s, we have Darkness at the Heart of My Love. And I do think, and unfortunately, I think that this is the low point of the album. In fact, if it weren't for some absolutely diabolical stuff on Skeletor, this would be the low point of Ghost discography for me. Some of you might think, if this is the low point, I'll take it. It's a pretty high low point. And fair enough. There are obviously some positives to this song, like the mix, which I'm going to keep saying because all of the songs on this album sound great. I can't stress that enough. The guitars sound great, especially the acoustic triplet melody in the verse. But unfortunately, this is basically Ghost doing Imagine Dragons. The percussion sounds so much like Believer. The key changing in this song as well does absolutely nothing for me. I just think it's unnecessary. Ghost have done that a lot in this album as well. I know I praised the key changing in 20s, but we've key changed a lot of times, and it's starting to not really be as effective as it should be. I think this, combined with the key change in Call Me Little Sunshine, have undermined their impact. Ghost have made love songs before, and they've made them work. This just doesn't work. I don't know how best to describe it, other than it is trying really hard to reach a dramatic high point that I, listening to it, never even come close to experiencing. There's a disconnect between me and the song, and I'm never going to be able to enjoy it if the song isn't able to take me with it. It's a really out of place song. I don't understand why this was released. After that, we have Griftwood, and this is much better. This is an improvement. The riffing here is much more up my street. The bass tone is especially noticeable in this. The bass is adding a lot to this song. It's either at the end of the verse or in the pre-chorus. You can really hear that bass coming through. It gives such a warmth to the song. It really adds so much. Griftwood has a catchy chorus. I don't think it's as memorable as other tracks on here and also previous Ghost songs, but it is really good. Like, I'm not gonna diss this song. I enjoy this quite a bit. After that, we have Bite of Passage, which is okay. Again, not sure it's totally necessary, but I've got no problem with it leading into the best track on this whole album by a really long way, which is Respite on the Spitalfields. I know I said I like 20s a lot. Well, I like Respite on the Spitalfields way more than I like 20s. This song is amazing. And to give it its credit, IMPERA is the only album where this song would fit on it. This would not fit on Prequel. This would not fit on Meliora. It would certainly not fit on the first two albums. Only because Ghost went in the IMPERA direction could Respite on the Spitalfields exist. So if the price of getting this gem of a song is Darkness at the Heart of My Love, I'll endure it, because this is really great stuff. The chorus is phenomenally good. Nothing Ever Lasts Forever, We Will Go Softly Into the Night is a brilliant vocal hook. And the structure of this whole song is really great. Remember when I said about Kaiserion that the reason that it doesn't really work for me is because there's no contrast between light and dark. It was all just upbeat and major. This song has darker, moodier sections that balance the brighter, fuller sections so well. It gets the balance perfectly right. It's a real journey of a song. Each section builds from a previous one. This entire thing is a linear progression right to the end, and it is a progression to the melody from Imperium, the opening melody of the album. We've dovetailed the start of this album and the end of it with that melody, and it is crazy how well the transition from the melody in the chorus is into the Imperium melody. It works so well, and they really take their time to set it up as well. After the last chorus, we go into an instrumental chorus, more like a outro bridge, where we really make the most of the melody from the vocal hook. And then we have this piano arpeggio in the keyboard, that builds up into that melody, and that is the high point of the song and also the high point of the album. And I love it that we have the high point of the album right at the end, the final moment. It's just brilliant. So I love that all these sections build on each other. You compare that to something like Watcher in the Sky from this album, the different sections feel independent, and that you could probably do without some of them. But here, they all interconnect really effectively. And the verse builds into the pre-chorus so well, and the pre-chorus is so good itself, that sometimes I forget that the pre-chorus isn't actually the chorus. So once the pre-chorus ends, we get to another level of intensity and drama, and it's really great. That's how you know that every single part of this song is well constructed and effective at conveying meaning. That cannot be said, unfortunately, for all of this album, but on this song there is not a moment where it isn't spectacular at doing that. So that's what I think about IMPERA. I've tried to be as fair as possible, but I have to be honest, this album as a whole isn't for me, and I think that is because there's only 9 proper tracks, and with only 9, a lot is resting on each of those. At the end of the day, I only really like 3 of these songs, maybe 4 if you're including Griftwood, and it's just not enough to make me want to listen to this thing as a full album. I'll only ever listen to those songs in particular, and that's a real shame because I really like Ghost, but I think this album misses the mark for me, and I hope I've been able to explain it's not really because I'm biased against the album or anything. I just think that my taste doesn't align with this, and this is not a direction I wanted this band to go in. But even though we've gone down this road, there are still some things that I really like, because Respite on the Spitalfields is a top 10 Ghost song, like one of the best they've ever made for sure. So to rank these songs, at the bottom we have Darkness at the Heart of My Love, not surprisingly. At number 8 we have Hunter's Moon, because that song just confused me. At number 7 we have Kaiserion, because it just doesn't really work for me, even though it should, and I can appreciate some objective aspects about it, some technical things, but I never feel it. At number 6 we have Call Me Little Sunshine. That's there because it's not as good as other stuff, but it is better. I'm not a huge fan of that riff, but the riff is okay, it's good enough. At number 5 we have Watcher in the Sky, because I can't deny that there are some sections of that song I really like, even if I don't like how all of them go together. At number 4 we have Griftwood, just a really solid song. At number 3 we have Spillways, which is really fun, always enjoy that one. At number 2 we have 20s, and at number 1, just because it's so much more epic than 20s and gives you so much more, instrumentally that is. Although the lyrics to this song are also very good, I forgot to mention that. We have Respite on the Spitalfields at the top of the list. I've made 2 ranking videos before as shorts on this channel for IMPERA, so you can see how my opinions have changed over the last few years, but I always try to give this album a fair shot. I know I don't like it, but even though it's my least favourite so far, there is still good stuff on here, and I always try to approach it with an open mind. And that's what I'm going to try and do for Skeletor, because there are a couple songs I like on Skeletor, but you can probably gather that if I didn't like IMPERA, yeah, Skeletor certainly wasn't for me the first time I listened to it, but you never know. A little bit of time has passed, maybe it'll be a bit better. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then you should check out some of the previous ones if you haven't. You should like and subscribe if you liked it, because this channel is tiny and it really helps. And if you made it this far, then you shouldn't just be a silent lurker. You should let me know what your thoughts are on IMPERA, because I bet that they're not the same. And I'm really interested in what people think about this album and which tracks are their favourites, because I know full well that I am bucking the trend when it comes to the average Ghost fan with this one. So let us all know, and I'll see you in the Skeletor review.